Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
When we think of workplace, most of us picture our teams, our tasks, and our deadlines. But behind it all, there are really people who keep everything running smoothly. And human resources professionals are those kind of people. I mean, they touch on everything from recruitment and training to conflict resolution and company culture. HR specialists are just something else. They actually become the heartbeat of any organization. In this conversation, we want to take a step behind HR desk a little bit to find out what life is really like for the people who hire, who guide, and who support South Africa's workforce. What would you like to know about the work of HR specialist, human resources specialist? What's your relationship with them? How have you interacted with HR people wherever you work or where you worked? Or it could be that you lost your job because of them. Please feel free to share that with us. I'd love to know from you, what would you like to know about the work of human resource specialist? There was a time in South Africa when everyone else, or it seemed that way at least, was starting to become a human resource manager. Remember that time? I think it's the late 90s, early 2000s, where everyone else, whenever you ask them, what are you studying? They'd be saying human resource management. And today we are putting them under the spotlight on across the desk. And my guest, Sipho Mabaso, HR specialist, joins us right now. Sipho is already here. Sipho, hi. Welcome. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Thabo.
Great stuff. We are glad that you could make time for us. Kulani Shiluvane is also HR specialist. Kulani, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Maybe let's kick off with you. Kulani, because HR, many of us are thinking that, what is it that you do when you go to work other than snitching on some of us? Gossiping with management about us and telling them Thabo is not really working. Yeah, okay, we'll have this instituted against them next month.
Oh, Thabo, I was actually laughing when you were doing the intro because, when you were asking your relationship with HR, I chuckled a little bit. No, HR is a lot more than gossiping with the managers or management and all of those things. I know there's that particular, perception by employees within the organization, but HR goes a lot deeper than that. I think for me, as an HR professional, HR is about being the bridge between the organization and its people and bringing the two together in order to achieve two things: the objectives of the organization, but also the individual career projections of the people that work within that particular organization.
It's a very pointed and specific role, isn't it? And it needs someone, I would assume, someone who's dedicated to the role. And as much as we're chuckling, there's jest in truth. Some people may say, there's truth in jest, rather. Some people may say, to what extent does it take a person who's really focused on the objectives of the organization and not the boss, not the executive, not the CEO, not the CFO, and not the people at the top, but really looking at the organization? It must take a special person to concentrate on that.
Oh, no, definitely. It really does. It does also get you into a lot of hot, murky waters, because at the end of the day, your role is to ensure that the objectives of the organization are met. The objectives of management, if those do not align with the objectives of the organization, it is our role to say, hey, stop Dilori. This is not where we are going. This is not the objective. This is the road in which we're supposed to be traveling. And that will get you into a bit of trouble. So HR, unfortunately for us, and I'm sure Sipho would agree, we are always in hot water with somebody. It's either management or the employees. And we're always trying to get ourselves out of that hot water.
Yeah. Sipho, let's come to you, and I will come to Kulani about this question as well, because I want to hear what she has to say. But let's start with you, perhaps, Sipho. What drew you to that career of human resources? I did say that there was a time in South Africa when it seemed like everyone else was studying HR.
Yeah. So honestly, Thabo, yeah, I didn't know much about the role when I decided to sign up for it. But somebody alluded to the fact that I was good with people, and therefore there's this career that every organization needs, right? No organization can survive without it. And I think that's probably when we saw that rise, with what you are referring to, when everybody was studying HR. But for me, it was more around the idea that I enjoy working with people. Being in this career over time, some of those elements have changed. Having understood what goes on to become a successful HR practitioner, what the intention was when I started to what it is today has shifted tremendously so. But the initial idea was I enjoy working with people.
I was going to ask about the evolution of the profession itself. It looks like it has somehow morphed into something else now, as opposed to what it used to be, Sipho.
Correct. And I was glad when you introduced the topic that you did not say the people that hire and fire, because that's what everybody reduces us to. And half the time, I'm not involved in people getting fired.
Yeah, right.
But to your... but I think to your point, I mean, initially HR was what we referred to as personnel management, right? Which was making sure that you hire people, make sure that they are paid on time, make sure that we adhere to all the legal obligations that the country requires us to. And we were all left to that. But over time, what then happened was this concept of business partnering, and the idea that you are not just going to sit behind your desk and wait for people to complain and for you to resolve conflicts, but you need to be more proactive. So if you think about 10 years ago when we said hybrid working is going to work, it was HR people that were saying that, but the business was still somewhat not looking forward to the idea of people not being in the office. Come COVID, it's HR that needed to then lead those conversations around, now that we are where we are and the business needs to make money, and let's allow people to work from home, and defining what that was going to look like. And that's where HR finds itself now. It's the idea that where's this world and economy that we're living in, and how does our organization fit into all of that? And how do we make sure that our people are ready? And therefore, it takes a different HR practitioner to be able to play that role, and for CEOs to then say, I need somebody in HR sitting next to me. And that's what the role has evolved to over time.
And Kulani, as you tell us what also attracted you to this profession, share a bit about the qualifications, skills, and acumen that is needed for someone to be in HR, Kulani.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So I think, as Sipho said, you have to be good with humans. I talk a lot. Also was told that I was very, very good with human beings. And my role into the HR career was one that was a little bit convoluted. I actually started in operations, and then from operations, then moved on to actually specializing in human resources and labor law as well. So I went to varsity, did a completely different undergrad, and then it was only at postgraduate level that I specialized in HR. And then also did a qualification in labor law as well at the University of Johannesburg. But please let it be known that I am a WITS graduate as well.
Oh my goodness me. Vets for good, right?
Once a Witsy, always a Witsy. The people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm also keen, Kulani, and I want to ask Sipho this as well. How close is your role to being an advisor to the head of the company? Because I find that often you may have CEOs or you have GMs or you have people right at the top of an organization. However, they lack a certain EQ about them. And I'm wondering if that's the value proposition that you bring on the table. It could be that the CEO is a smart person and they were CFO, they know numbers back and forth. But the EQ element, is that what you are bringing on board?
No, 100%. So as Sipho spoke about how the profession has actually evolved over the years, right? So in the beginning, when we were called personnel management, it was a very administrative role, right? And then when we moved into the business partnering, HR became a very strategic role within organizations. So the people that were, ordinarily picked to be the CEOs that were really good with numbers, et cetera, they needed people like myself and Sipho to come in and help with that EQ element. And we've also seen HR professionals actually within, organization also then evolve to become the CEO and then have people that are good with numbers, then advise them, because we've seen that is it's become a very, very strategic role, because at the end of the day, the numbers might be numbering. However, if the human element of the organization is not coming to the party, then you're left with this big gap that needs to be married to one another so the organization can move forward.
20 minutes after 10 o'clock, you're on 702 Thabo in for Clement. We're together till 12. In this segment of Across the Desk today, we are looking at HR specialist, and I want to know from you, what would you like to know about the work of HR specialist? We are paying special homage to this profession. These are the people who are lurking in offices, moving around, holding files, calling us for meetings, and speaking with bosses. When you are hired, they are there. When you are fired, they are there. And they will deny their involvement in the latter, but that's a story for another day. But your relationship with your HR person, your HR specialist, human resources manager, what has it been like where you work? And is it something that you considered as a career at some point? Please let us know on 011-883-0702, 011-883-0702, or send a voice note or a text message to 072-702. 1702. Sipho, I hope you are not going to respond like a certain deputy minister who was in front of the parliamentary ad hoc committee recently. But I'll ask the same question nonetheless. So after you take a bath, get ready for work, when you get to the office, what do you do? And I hope you're not like deputy ministers. You sit there and you wait for your, and you do nothing at all. What do you do? Give us an impression of a day-to-day of an HR specialist.
Okay, I'll do mine as well, and I'll also just talk to the idea that it has evolved, right? So my role has evolved from when I started to where I am right now. But typically emails first. Unfortunately, we inundated with a lot of emails because everybody wants to talk to us about different topics. So it would usually be emails, and then it would depend on what my objectives are. I'll tell you right now, for example, I'm in the process of converting people from using their own cars for work and converting them into a company car model. So today, that's part of what I need to do. So look at the numbers, look at who's going to be impacted, how are we going to do change management. So just that laying it out. And part of that would then mean next week I'm going to have to start having meetings with some of the stakeholders that need to be involved in the project. So it differs day to day depending on what I'm working on. Last week, we were working on an incentive structure. Again, it's spending time on trying to understand what does that look like? What's the business currently using? Because I'm fairly new in the space that I'm in right now. So last week, I had quite a number of meetings with some of the stakeholders just to understand what's the current system looking like? And therefore sitting back and thinking around how do we evolve from that point of view. I do a lot of research as well. So I'll spend a lot of time online trying to understand what the current best practices are, drawing it back to the challenges that we are experiencing within our organization and trying to think through what are some of the things that we can implement. And of course, the implementation will then look differently.
Yeah.
Again, Thabo, this looks different from when I was a graduate, from when I was an HR specialist. Back then, I would rely on my line manager to tell me what to do. There would be vacancies, so that would include posting vacancies. So the following day would mean I'm checking if we've received a proper number of CVs, going through those CVs, scheduling interviews and so forth. But fortunately, I don't get to do that anymore. But it differs on every stage of your career, but trust you me, there's always work. And I think if there's ever an HR person that does not have a week that is full of work, I worry about them and not the organization in itself.
Well, Kulani, I'm going to ask you the same in a short while, but I have to take a break. 24 minutes after 10 o'clock.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Welcome back. 27 minutes after 10 o'clock. Across the desk, we are speaking to HR specialist, and I wanted to find out from you, what would you like to know about the work of HR specialist? And it could be that you're also in HR yourself. What is challenging about that role? What is it that we are underestimating and overlooking? It could be that there are things that are really difficult that we don't understand as ordinary employees, and we take your role for granted. Let us know on 011-883 0702. My guest, Sipho Mabaso, HR specialist, Kulani Shiluvane. Kulani Shiluvane is HR specialist as well, and they're joining us on this very interesting discussion, and I would like to draw you in as well. Kulani, prior to the break, I threatened to come back to you also on the similar question. I'm wondering how soft or gentle should HR's approach be, especially on disciplinary issues? I don't know who is playing a pivotal role as far as discipline is concerned, but I know that you may have a role to play. Assuming someone every Monday is not at work at a particular time, or they are always late for work, we should say. And prior to you dragging them through a disciplinary process, are you in your role in any way supposed to be hearing them first, being a big sister, a big brother, listening comfortably to what they have to say and maybe suggesting some remedial issues? Or should you just say, listen, we start at 7 and you're always late. Every single Monday you come through at 8:30 and here's your warning letter?
No, so let me start by saying that discipline and ensuring that people within the organization's color within the lines, as I like to say, is always the people manager's responsibility. So as an HR professional, it's my responsibility to ensure that the people managers understand how to guide and implement disciplinary processes within the organization, right? And then should it get to a point where the behavior is repetitive or the issue has now escalated, as an HR professional, I will always come in firstly to assess the situation, ask what is happening. Again, like you said, listen with that ear to say, okay, and then advise what the next course of action is. But the first step is always with the people managers. The people managers are the ones that are responsible to implement disciplinary processes. As an HR professional, it is my job to to ensure that the people managers understand the law, understand the policies and procedures, as well as the road in which they need to travel when it comes to enforcing discipline within the organization.
702, exactly 10:30.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
702 indeed. Back to my guest on Across the Desk, Sipho Mabaso, HR specialist, Kulani Shiluvane, HR specialist as well. And we are just looking into this very interesting profession. Let's go straight to your call. So 118830702. Vusi, you're in Carltonville. Hi, morning. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm free. How are you, Vusi?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm very much interested in this topic of the HR concept and all that. You know? I just want to add on something, or just maybe give a little bit of advice, especially to our HR officers. So I have a background experience. In the mining industry, we have these things called contractors, and they have HR officials there. Very problematic. Now, here's what I would like to advise. As an HR officer, anyone who is within the context of HR, please, I don't think there's an HR personnel who cannot familiarize themselves with the labor laws, the Labor Relations Act. I think it has to be some sort of a general knowledge for most of them, you know, because there's disputes after disputes after disputes, and they fail so much when it comes to following proper procedure, when it comes to disciplinary hearings, when it comes to, you know, all those type of stuff, because they end up dismissing employees unfairly so, they end up suspending employees unfairly so, and all those type of stuff.
So you're suggesting that they must familiarize themselves with the law, especially LRA, more importantly.
They have to be very familiar with the Labor Relations Act laws.
Vusi, thanks very much for your time. Sipho, how important is it also to view the changes in legislation? Because that can easily land a company into serious problems, hot water, if, for instance, an HR overlooks a certain important element of LRA.
No, very critical, Thabo. And I think that's the biggest role that we are meant to be playing, right? We don't expect a businessman or a CEO to be thinking about these things. It's our role to check as to how's the labor law evolving, what are the new trends, and how does it impact our industry? So because we are all in different industries, of course. And I think to Vusi's point, that's the reason why labor law, whether it's as a portion or as a full module, will always form part of any HR qualification. Yes, you can still do it as a side if you want to enhance it, but it forms the core part of, you know, any basic training from an HR point of view, because it is our duty to ensure that all staff members adhere to these policies. And to Vusi's point, whenever somebody gets fired and they go to the CCMA looks at two things. Was the process procedurally fair, and was it substantively fair? And you've got all those rules guided by our labor laws. So it would be said to know that there are HR people that don't necessarily keep up with these changes or with the basic laws.
Yeah, makes sense. And Kulani, from your side, knowing the law, because I mean it's people's livelihoods. Emotions should be placed aside at times, and the law has to be taken into consideration, especially on the side of the employee.
100%. Paramount. As Sipho stressed, it is the foundation on which everything else is built. And one, brick that is not laid correctly could have, a disastrous outcome, either for the organization or the individual. And I like exactly what you said, Thabo. It is people's livelihoods that we are, that are being determined in these particular set of circumstances. So it is very, very important that you don't just proceed with things willy-nilly, that you ensure that you as a professional are always up to date. These things always get reviewed, changes come up. Currently, I think I'm not entirely, and I shouldn't be saying this, but I don't think it's been signed into law yet. Sipho, you'll tell me as well. There's certain changes that are coming where smaller employers will not be held to the same standards as larger employers when it comes to things like retrenchment, firing and dismissing. Yeah. So those are the things that Sipho and I, always stay ahead of the curve on, because the moment they become signed into law, we need to ensure that we are advising our organizations and our people within the organization of these changes, the impact of the changes, and how we are going to effect that particular change management as well. Because we have to take management through the change. We need to take employees through the change as well, so everybody is up to par with those particular changes as and when they come in.
011-883-0702. Alternatively, your voice notes, which I've been neglecting, and I'll go straight to them on 072-702-1702.
Hi, Thabo and the team. My question to your guests is, how do you deal with the situation whereby a junior employee lodges a complaint against a senior member of the company? Why I'm asking this is that on some occasions, HR practitioners tend to be paralyzed when a senior member of the company is involved, or when a junior member of the company is the one who is lodging a complaint against the senior member of the company. David.
Let's hear this one specifically because it's very important. Sipho?
Yes, and I acknowledge that at times it does become tricky. But depending on what the complaint is, I think it's within our duty to understand the complaint. If it's in writing, sit with the person just so that you make sure that you understand what the actual concerns are and ask for specifics as much as possible. Because I think a lot of times we get tripped by, he does not like me. And I'm like, I can't do much with that. I can work with it from a culture point of view, but if the specifics, then what we would then need to do is we would then need to approach that specific line manager, inform them and get their view. There are instances where people might note that, I was not aware, or I didn't do anything wrong. Yes, I did that, but I didn't do anything wrong. In that instance, Thabo, I know that I've got coaching to do with that line manager, because there's people that would do something, but they don't understand how it would negatively impact the next person. In that instance, I know it's my role to coach, and where necessary, I'll go to that specific line manager's boss, because everybody has a boss. In an instance where it's something as serious as, for example, sexual harassment, somebody being insulted in front of other people. In that instance, it's not just a matter of coaching. Unfortunately, yes, I will have to now go to their manager as well and inform them of what had just happened. And depending on the severity of the case, then we might determine the need to either suspend if there's a need to, and or give out a form of a warning with, repercussions that should follow. The danger, and this is something that you spoke about, a lot of the work that we then do does not go outside. So what we always say is that, Thabo, whatever you go through from a performance or disciplinary point of view, your juniors should not know, out of respect. So more often than not, we would give you a warning, but I can't go tell your subordinates that we've given you a warning, right? And that's where it becomes difficult. So people sometimes think HR is not doing anything, but actually on file, we've got it in writing so that should you repeat the behavior, then we know that it could go into a disciplinary inquiry with a possible termination. But those are some of the elements that we cannot go out and announce that this person has received a written warning, and that's where it becomes tricky.
And Kulani,
and I don't know if Kulani would align.
I'd want you to jump in, Kulani, just a little bit, if you don't mind adding one more element to it. And just for purposes of being frank, I suspect our listener is also suggesting that if perhaps the member of the executive is involved in an act that has contravened work policy and regulations and everything of the sort, do you have the courage to stand up as you would if it were Thabo who had contravened any of those, and call Thabo to the office, speak to him and follow the right procedure? Or are you intimidated by the title because perhaps that person is even higher than you in that organization, and you're timid and you're thinking, if I act against this person, I know how powerful he is in that executive committee. It could be the end of me here.
I'm going to speak from a personal point of view here, right? Because I also realize that there are very different people that are within the profession. And also, luckily for me, I don't have a boss. Actually, I do, which is the board. But, because I'm in HR consulting, which is very, very different to HR professionals that sit within an organization. So back in the days when I did sit in an organization, my rule has always been never let the title get in the way. That is rule number one. In other words, whether I'm having to deal with an issue that is the CEO, CFO, whatever the title is, the merits of the case need to be dealt with the merit of the case, and forget about the title. If somebody has done something wrong, they have done something wrong, and it doesn't matter where in the organizational hierarchy they fall in. Matters need to be dealt with, fairly, consistently. Because that's another thing that will be looked at the CCMA, is that has this rule been applied consistently? Has it been applied fairly, as well as across the board? You cannot chop and change who you want to apply the rules to and who not to apply them to just because there's some kind of title that a person holds. So you deal with the matter according to the facts, and you ignore the title. So that has always been something that I, even right now, still follow at the end of the day, because if somebody is wrong, they are wrong.
Great. Let's go to Tsepo, then we'll go to the voice notes and the text messages. Abel, Tsepo, you are in Randburg. Hi.
Yes, good morning to you and the listeners. So I just want to say that as an HR officer, it's important to know the policies from your company. So that it's easier then to explain to whoever you will be engaging with or contracting at that point. So these employees, they must know that they must be inducted. They must also know the policies so that they know where to run to whenever there is a problem. So most of the people are not properly inducted and they're not engaging with the policies of the organization. So from an HR side also, it's also important to update your employees whenever a certain policy changes, to say, guys, this has been changed, therefore this is how now we are going to go about this. So there is a rift between HR and employees, because now the employees are not fully equipped in terms of the organizational policies. So that is what I just wanted to weigh in.
Tsepo, thanks very much for that. Let's go to the voice notes on 072 702 1702.
As much as I've had some incredible HR managers who've had a really positive impact on my career, one must still acknowledge that HR is an executive function, and I'd like to hear how HR managers feel they can walk this tightrope. Claire in Rosebank.
I'm going to put you under the spotlight, Kulani. I had put Sipho there before.
Claire raises a very good point, right? As HR professionals, we are tasked with ensuring that people within the organizations, both the employees as well as the managers, are taken care of, needs are being met. We're always ensuring that, the culture, all of those things are in place, right? Sometimes we always say to ourselves, where's HR for HR?
Yes.
As an HR professional, I also want an HR person to look after me.
Yes.
Because we do carry a lot on our shoulders. We are this constant balancing act that we have to do as professionals to ensure that we are walking the tightrope between the objectives of the organization, the well-being of the people, the culture, the objectives as well. So it is important that within organizations that HR professionals themselves are also looked after, that they're attended for as well. And that's a concept that we have actually developed, where we've called it HR for HR, where HR professionals have a space to come and also be looked after, to be nurtured, to be looked after, to ensure that their career projection is also, in line with what they want to achieve for themselves, that their mental well-being is also being looked after as well. And also they're also getting a raise, as well, because it's very important.
Well, Sipho, I'm going to come back to you in a short while, 12 minutes to 11 o'clock. You're on 702 Thabo in for Clement. Keep those messages coming through on 0727021702. But quickly, let's take one or two adult before we take a break. I know we pressed. This one says, hi, morning TSM and the team. HR professionals have an influence in the trajectory of people's careers and their lives. So in my previous job, an HR manager made sure that my hours accommodated my studies. I had to attend lectures during the week. Had it not been by him, my manager and her manager wanted me to choose between my studies and my job. We just buried him 2 weeks ago. I was heartbroken. Thanks very much for that, and keep sending them through 0727021702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
7:02 indeed, 2 minutes to 11 o'clock. Welcome back. HR Desk is under the spotlight today on Across the Desk as I speak to the esteemed guests, Sipho, Mabaso, Kulani, Shiluvane, who are both HR specialists. And we are looking at this very controversial but necessary career. In your office, you'd know that there are these individuals. They are seemingly friendly, but very important nonetheless, and the two are not mutually exclusive, by the way. But they do a very important job in being the heartbeat of the company. HR, what is your relationship with them? Sipho, there was a guest who asked about unions. Maybe it's the point at which we need to find out from them. They asked about the role of unions and how do you relate with them, especially as human resources. I would love to hear from you as to how do you get, because it can be a very, very serious tightrope to walk on.
Yes. And I think what usually makes that relationship difficult, Thabo, is when you choose not to be an empathetic or a good listener. And I think my relationship with them has been up and down, but the core has always been hear them out. And just like any other human being, it's hear them out. And basically their role, of course, is to represent employees. So you want all employees to have one or two people that can consolidate their needs, their complaints, their suggestions, because more often than not, it's not just the bad stuff. They sometimes have value add to where the business could go. And they represent employees and talk on their behalf. So be it day-to-day operations, be it concerns that they experience on an ongoing basis. And then, of course, the infamous salary negotiations as well, which is what usually becomes a very hot topic. But I think their contact into the business is usually through us from an HR point of view. So we become their door into the organization. And more often than not, we still need to pull out the CEO or the MD and say, come, we are going to sit together and we are going to have conversations with our people as represented by the union.
So I have a couple of questions for both of you, and we're about to wrap this up. And I just wanted maybe to start off with you first, Kulani, and then I'll come back to Sipho. And this would be just a yes or a no on 3 questions for you, and I'll have 3 questions for Sipho. Would be a yes or a no as well. Kulani, are you ready?
I think so.
Can I come to HR or approach the HR office if there is bereavement or some sadness that are affecting me personally?
Yes.
Can I approach HR office if I need to make a career move that does not necessarily reside inside that organization? I anticipate moving to another organization, and can I come to HR for advice on that?
Yes.
Can I approach HR for advice if I'm attracted to my colleagues at work?
Oh, 100% yes. Please do. Please. No, that one is a resounding yes.
Really? Why? Is it because of some policies that some offices have on relationships?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So, organizations
Yeah.
I see Sipho's laughing with me. Some organizations have policies on how workplace romantic relationships have happened. We've obviously all seen how that Coldplay concert played out a couple of
Yes.
months ago. So it's very, very important. Organizations have clear policies and guidelines on how, workplace romantic relationships should be handled. So I always say, and especially when you're 100% sure, right? And maybe even if you're not 100% sure, or maybe you're exploring, you and Timothy, there's a vibe there.
Yeah.
I would definitely say, have a conversation with HR.
Sure.
Just so you can color within the lines.
Yeah. Sipho, your turn.
Yeah.
Before we say goodbye, can I approach HR if I have a problem against someone who is high ranking in the office?
Yes, okay.
Can I approach HR about my financial situation, which may not be at their peak or at their best?
Yes.
Can I approach HR about a pay raise?
You can. Yes, you can. And I'm just delaying with the last two because I'm trying to think as to what's going to be my next step.
Yeah.
But if the question is, can I approach HR? Yes, you can.
Okay. Guys, I love talking to you. Sadly, we are flat out of time. I really appreciated having a wonderful chat with you, and I hope we can do it sometime soon again. Thanks again to you, Sipho Mabaso, and thanks to Kulani Shiluvane. Really appreciated those wonderful moments, and you being frank, open, and direct with us. 2 minutes to 11 o'clock.